Hello everyone, this is Robert from Book of Mormon Editions, where we discuss printings, publications, and various editions of the Book of Mormon. I'm reminded that while I review various printings of the Book of Mormon, every video has ample time to showcase its own features, and it doesn't represent an endorsement or my opinion on its origins. However, there is value in reviewing all things Book of Mormon, no matter the source. This is the case when we review this next edition today. This is the Book of Mormon, produced by the True and Living Church of Jesus Christ of the Saints of the Latter Days. This one will be interesting. So the background started in the mid-1990s by a man by the name of Jim Harmston out of Manti, Utah, where he began to host gospel LDS gospel studies where they would discuss deep doctrine and fringe topics. This led to Jim and his group being critical of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, claiming that the gospel according to Salt Lake was watered down. He claimed that he had revelations, partly by doing segments of the temple ceremony in his own house. This led to the creation of the True and Living Church of Jesus Christ of the Saints of the Latter Days. This is often called the TLC Church. Harmston introduced new doctrine into his church, which included reinstating polygamy and a soft form of reincarnation where individual members were prior early saints of the Restoration come back to perform work and grow this new church. Harmston claimed that he was the reinstated Joseph Smith. In the pinnacle of his church in 1997, they published their own edition of the Book of Mormon. This is a black hardback edition with no words on the cover and only a title on the spine. The introduction has a letter from Jim Harmston and his first presidency regarding this publication. Following is a brief introduction listing the source of this edition as the 1830 Book of Mormon. It goes into some general details on why and how this edition is published. So the format of this Book of Mormon is in double column form. There are no footnotes or references, and there's a small margin in the middle to allow for personal notes and references penciled in. So the text matches that of the 1830 Book of Mormon. Rather than a photocopy, this is actual text, and it kept several misspellings and grammar errors. What's interesting is that this versing matches the current Salt Lake editions. The text also has indicators where the 1830 chapter breaks were, so this is an 1830 text with modern Salt Lake versing and chapter breaks. The back of the text ends on page 445 with the testimony of the witnesses in the back with no index or reference guides. This TLC church only has had a few hundred members at any given time, and Harmston made a claim that he had a revelation that Jesus would return in the fall of 1999. As it didn't look like what was expected, the church lost some membership, which included some lawsuits against Harmston. In the year 2000, the church decided that it would discontinue proselyting to the heathen Gentiles, so it seems that this edition wasn't used much as a conversion tool for that church. Obtaining a copy of this edition is pretty hard, as they only come from the church directly, and I'm not sure of the print quantity available anymore. I know that any break-off denomination will claim its own authority, but researching the TLC and this edition helps me realize that it's not effective to be critical of the Salt Lake Church and throw rocks from the outside. I realize that we all need to evaluate our faith, but it doesn't help being critical of an organization in order to make it change. I think this was Harmston's downfall, to think that he was better than Salt Lake. However, my opinion is out of the scope of this Book of Mormon review, and I'll let you decide the effectiveness of this denomination on your own. But I have learned a few unique things about reviewing this edition. First is that this edition was used by a polygamist group, which is pretty unique, and this was used by a congregation consisting of a low membership count. I'd love to hear from anyone in the congregation, and ask to feel free to if you want to make any comments below. Thanks everyone for watching and the feedback I've received. It's been fun getting suggestions, and I have a lot of material still to go through. If you have a special or unique edition of the Book of Mormon that you'd like reviewed here, please contact me at bomeditions@gmail.com. Best wishes, everyone.